Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Runestone. Today we're going over Magic Gathering Top 10 Swords, the hardest top 10 I've ever done. So now, at number 10. With the first being on our list is Sword of the Animist from Magic Origins, rare, going for $9.76 at the market. So you can already see the top 10 that already it's at $10 for this card. Costs 2 mana. For equipped creature, gets +1/+1 with an equipped 2. Says whenever a equipped creature attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tab, then shuffle your library. The reason why it's at number 10 is, well, this card is actually really cool for what it costs. You can bring a land into play every turn, and by turn 6 or 7, you will have as much land as you need. So now, let's move on to number 9. Well, it's going to be Sword of War and Peace from various sets and Mythic, which will be a common theme throughout this top 10 video, and it will only cost $15.46 at the time of this video. So like with most of the Sword of quotation cards, it has +2/+2, but this one has protection from red and white with an equipability of 2. Basically, it says it deals combat damage to a player, deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in his or her hand, and you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. So if the opponent has no cards in their hand, this card is kind of useless, but it does give the creature that red and white protection. Again, can be also well as useless, but that's why it's at number 9. So let's move on to number 8. Which is a really cool sword picture I find is Sword of Sinew and Steel from Modern Horizons. It's a mythic going for roughly $10 on the market. But this one has +2/+2 with a protection from black and red, which you can typically kind of see these protections in the sword itself. It says whenever creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target planeswalker and up to 1 target artifact. So this one actually doesn't really benefit you if there's no artifacts or planeswalkers. That's why it's at this number, and it could backfire. But again, I love the protections. I'm always a fan of that in all Magic cards. So let's move on to number 7. At number 7, we got Sword of Caldera. It's from Mirrodin, rare, going for $16.23 on the market. Well, this one has cost 4 to play, but with an equipped 4. But equipped creature gets +5/+5, so it's really cool. It's not as powerful as Colossus of Hammer, but nevertheless, that is a cool sword. Whenever equipped creature deals damage to a creature, remove that creature from the game. I don't think I'd quite see this ability very often in Magic, so I really think that's deserving at number 7. So let's move on to number 6. We have Sword of Hearth and Home from Modern Horizons 2. It's a mythic going for $12.03 currently at the time of this video. And as you can see based on the picture, this Hearth and Home has protection from green and white with the +2/+2. But the reason why here it is at number 6 as well, it says when it deals combat damage to a player, exile up to 1 target creature you own. Then search your library for basic land. Put both cards onto the battlefield under your control, and then shuffle. That's pretty awesome. You can't do that. Again, with everything else, protection from green and white could mean absolutely nothing. So 3 for a 2 for a +2/+2, it's not very helpful. So let's move halfway down our list to number 5. We have Sword of Body and Mind from various sets, mythic with going for $15 basically. But this one is protection from green and blue. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, you may put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield, and that player puts the top 10 cards of his or her library into his graveyard. I like that ability of putting cards into the person's graveyard. And then it says a green wolf creature token, which so much could be used with that, with special enchantments for pumping up those wolves. You can make a wolf deck with this card. It might be quite unbeatable. In fact, I might do that myself. So let's move on to number 4, which is an interesting card, Sword of Light and Shadow from various sets. But this one has actually been rare or mythic, unlike the typical mythic. This one is $22.94, and this one is protection from white and black, as obviously you can see. So when it deals combat damage to a player, you gain 3 life, and you may return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. I think this is deserving at this point because you gain life, which again, abilities you can possibly do, and then creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Wow. So you can kill creatures right away and then bring them back to your hand. Can't beat that. So let's move on to number 3. We have Sword of Feast and Famine. Has protection from black and green, and it says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and untap all the lands you control. So it can kind of backfire since not a lot of cards have to deal with black and green. For instance, in sorceries, which can be very helpful if you're playing against an opponent, but you gives you the ability to play creatures if you choose to instead, and using the mana right away. So it's very mix and match, and this one is $61 currently in the market. So if you get this card, keep it. So let's move on to number 2, which we have is Sword of Truth and Justice from Modern Horizons. It's a mythic going from $28.52. The reason why I have this at number 2 is because I believe white and blue protection is actually the best thing, because a lot of blue, it can bounce and so forth. So when it comes to all the color combinations for these type of swords, I think blue is the best protection. And then it says when it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control, then proliferate. Now you can do many cards with proliferation and actually get it pumped even more. Again, this actually has to do with the whole protection of white and blue more than anything else. So let's move on to number 1, which is this amazing Sword of Fire and Ice from various sets, being rare or mythic, going for $60.51 on the market. And it's going back to that blue thing. This one actually has protection from red and blue, so it's even better than the previous one because red and blue probably has more instances than anything else. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, it deals 2 damage to any target and you draw a card. So I really like that. Again, for 3 and 2, it's pretty expensive like most of these swords are, but 2 damage to any target could be the opponent, so you damage them, do 2 more damage and you draw a card, which could, if playing red, even another damage like Firebolt or Lightning Bolt or whatever. So this is why it's at number 1. I think it has more versatility than any other sword card in the Magic world. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Have a good day and a good evening.